Hi, hello, welcome to another Shower Doctor live chat. If you've got any questions about showers, just send them in and we'll do our best to answer them. We've got Lucas in the background here working the technical stuff, and me about to explain a little bit about flow valves in the shower. Flow valves are quite an important part of the shower. It's what controls the water that goes through it. So I've got a Triton shower here. So the water would normally come in here past the solenoid valve. Not every shower's got a solenoid, and then through the flow valve, and it's that regulates the water that goes into the heating tank. I think though probably what I need to explain is what a flow valve really is. It's effectively a tap, a bit more complicated than a tap, but this is really the inside of a tap, and you can see that we've got a washer here. And what happens is that when you turn the tap on and off, the washer goes back and forward into the hole, and so into the face of the tap, and so as it comes back out, it allows more water to go through, and so that's a fairly simple tap. The more modern one is of course a ceramic disc that has holes in the end, and it turns on and off. And so these are the two kind of standard taps. The problem with these things is that when it comes to a shower, they're not accurate enough to meter the water properly as it goes through the shower. I've explained before in one of the earlier videos, but I'll do it quickly again, that if the water goes through the shower very quickly, then it doesn't have much chance to pick up heat. So you turn the flow of water down, it goes through the shower slowly, and it heats up, and therefore you get more heat. So the more water, the less heat. So what we have then is we've got to get to the kind of more complicated valves that go into the shower. We've got this here. This is a fairly cheap valve, and you can maybe recognise the washer that's in the same as an ordinary tap. And what that does is it goes against the face like so, and it turns as you turn it on and off, the washer moves back and forward. But slightly differently with this is it has this cone-shaped thing here. You probably won't be able to see it, but there are flutes on the cone, and as you open the tap, the flutes are held, the volume of water is curtailed with a rubber ring, and as it comes out, the flutes get bigger, so you can then meter the water much more carefully. So effectively, that when this is in here and turned off, there's very little, and as it pulls back out, therefore you get more water flow through the shower and a more accurate flow of water. And of course with showers in general, I've mentioned this in many of our live chats and videos, the more you spend the better the quality. We would then move on to something like this. This is a Triton valve, really. It's a stabilizer valve as well as a flow valve. And what happens in here is a couple of springs inside this and a diaphragm. That means that when you've sort of set the temperature of your shower, that if somebody flushes a toilet or opens a tap somewhere and the pressure in the system changes, because of the springs in the diaphragm, it tries to meter. It's not perfect, but it tries to keep the flow a little steadier than it would normally do with this sort of thing. And it's the springs that help to do that. Once again, as I said, the more expensive the shower, the more complicated these things get, and the better, they're basically a better quality item. We've got a Myra one here. This is a Myra flow valve that's used in the Sport and one or two of the other models. Same sort of thing, that you adjust the water flow here, and it's adjusted inside this little box. This is a completely sealed unit that's glued together. There's nothing you can do. If this becomes faulty, it's a case of replacing the complete flow valve. And then we would then move on to the really complicated stuff. This is a Myra one again. This is not unique to Myra. The different manufacturers have different ways of doing it, but this is an integrated solenoid. Unlike the solenoid unlike solenoid in this, which is just basically an on-off switch for water. It turns when it powers up, the water comes on or goes off. This solenoid is variable, so it can vary the flow of water that goes through. But rather uniquely with this, I'll get the wires out of the way, it's got this sort of sensing unit at the bottom, and what this does is it senses the temperature of the water coming into the shower. There's a thermistor in there, and there's a little paddle thing inside, so it knows the volume of water that's coming in. But one of the other connections here is connected to a thermistor on the outside of the shower. So what it does is it compares the outgoing temperature with the temperature of the water coming in and the flow, and electronically it can adjust the flow of the the flow into the shower, so it can hold the temperature of the water very steady, and it's a thermostatically controlled shower. This was really probably one of the first. This type of thing was one of the first showers that were controlled electronically, and they're very safe, in fact, because the water temperature is measured and metered all the time, and so that basically is a flow valve. That there's all sorts of different types, different manufacturers go about it in slightly different ways, but these are the kind of basic ones that you would get in an ordinary shower. And so I see. Alright, I thought that was a question coming in the live feed. It's not. There's nothing come in yet. So as I said, send any questions in. We'll do our best to answer them. I think I've covered flow valves enough. If you want to question me on these, then carry on. What I'll do is, I think I'll do now is there's a couple of there's quite a few replies coming to some of the videos, and maybe I'll answer one or two, if I can, one or two of the questions. Cecil Chan emailed in and said, after replacing her Moen cartridge on the shower, we finally had hot water, but there is now a water leak where the knob and the round plate meet. Could this be a defective cartridge? I don't know, Moen, there's quite a few different cartridges, so I don't know exactly which one you have. To be honest, the cartridges seldom leak. You sometimes can get, not very often, but you can occasionally get a cartridge with a temperature control problem. If it's a leak, I suspect that one of the O-rings has rolled back when you've fitted it, or indeed you maybe nicked one of the O-rings. I guess the best thing to do is to take the cartridge out again, make sure the O-rings are okay, they've not been nicked in any way, give them a bit a coat of grease, and then push them back in. When you push a cartridge back in, whichever type of cartridge it is, really always try and make sure you go in nice and square. Don't just shove it in any old way, because it's that causes the O-rings to roll back. It's just to be careful when you put any cartridge in that you get it in straight. Elbow and Toe 84. He found this video very formative. This was our shower faults video. So yeah, we put a bit of work into that, trying to work out the best of the most common faults. And so thank you for the compliment. Now there's somebody here with their name is VXIGSI. So I don't know how to pronounce that. But he asks how you test a latching switch because his shower has no water. There are two types of latching switch. One, when you press it, it stays in, and then you press it again and it pops back out. So when it makes a connection, and when you press it again, the connection it breaks the connection. The other type is that when you press it in, it makes a connection, and then electronically the shower is switched on, and then you would press another switch or whatever to switch it off, but it really just turns the power on to the shower. The way to test them would be to test them for continuity across the switch. However, to be honest, usually you can feel it if it's clicking in or not clicking in properly. It's a feel thing. You can generally do it by touch. You may actually have to take the front cover off the shower to actually, because the button generally connects onto the latching switch, so you may actually have to take the cover off and press it. If you're taking the cover off, of course, remember to switch the power off first. However, when you said here that the shower has power but won't turn on, I suspect that really what you've got is a faulty solenoid rather than a faulty latching switch. So it may very well be to look at our video. We've got a video on how to test solenoids. This thing here, you should be able to recognise it in your shower. They're all roughly the same, different colours, but you should be able to recognise that. We've got a video on how to test them. So I would check that your solenoid isn't a problem, because that's the most likely thing. Yeah, Mike Howell said, it's amazing how nitpicky some people are, and they should be grateful for for us doing the videos. To be honest, I don't mind people nitpicking. We're not perfect, that we can make mistakes, and it's also by learning what people are missing out on that helps us improve our videos and indeed the live stream. I've got another comment I noticed further down that kind of picks on that a little bit. But yeah, be as picky as you like. I don't mind. I'm used to being insulted, so it's not a big problem for me. Yeah, Travel Bug 28 says it's an interesting video. This picks up on the last comment, to be honest. Travel Bug 28 says an interesting video, but you're working on a brand new one. No gunge or rust or screws that are rusted in. And I think zooming into the shower control would show more. You're absolutely right. The problem is that we can't, in a sort of workshop environment, take a shower out of someone's house and bring it here to fix it. But what we do try to do is that if there are any problems, or we know that nuts are tight or that sort of thing, that we try to sort of mention that when we're doing the video. We know where the problems are. That Travel Bug, it was an Aquilisa cartridge. There's generally never much of a problem getting these out. I can't really think that the screws to hold the thing in are stainless steel, or the very old ones brass, so they really shouldn't stick. Probably another tip for anything that is sticky, whether it's plastic or brass or whatever, and you find it difficult to get out, just a general tip: boil up a couple of kettles of hot water and pour that over it. And what that tends to do is it'll expand the thing, and often just enough to break the stiction on a nut or on or something that's plastic that won't come apart. So as long as it's safe to do so, pour some hot water on it, and it should help to split it apart. Yeah, I've got somebody, Scott IP 2323 says it's a great tutorial. He's now confident around electrics, but wasn't too clued up on showers. And he's checked and tested his solenoid in the shower and found it was faulty. And he's about to buy one from the website. Well, that's the whole point of doing the videos, to hopefully that we've given you enough information to feel confident about doing some of these repairs yourself. I see this coming about a week ago, so hopefully your shower's up and working now. Nicola Haynes, hello. We have a mixer tap for the shower, but the lever is stuck and won't shut the water off. We think it's been turned too far. Is there any way we can fix it? We think it's a Bensham shower exposed valve. With all of these valves, there are many different valves, and the best thing to do, if you're not sure of what shower you have, is send us a photo. So in this case, that's what to do. If you send us a couple of photos of the shower, we will be able to identify it and hopefully give you some advice on what the normal things that go wrong with the shower. So Nicola, if you can send us a couple of photographs of your shower, we'll do what we can to help you solve the problem with the sticking lever. Luke Downing, yeah, Luke's stumped because he's had a shower that doesn't have water coming out. He's checked the filter, done all the obvious things, but what he does say is the shower's only 12 months old. He also has said he's also sent a video clip, a YouTube video clip, to show us the problem. Unfortunately, Luke, I've not been able to look at that video. What I'll do is after this, I'll have a quick look at the video and see if I can see anything wrong with it. Having said that, if it's only 12 months old, that it should still be under guarantee. And this is advice I give to anybody, that first thing to do if a shower's not working when it's fitted is reread the instructions and make sure you fitted it correctly. There's very few nowadays problems with new showers. It tends to be a fitting issue. But the other thing is if you're quite confident that it's been fitted correctly, then what to do is phone the manufacturer, because if you go inside and start touching things, what they'll do is they'll invalidate the guarantee, and you've paid good money for a shower, and their engineer will just come away and say, no, somebody's touched this or broken that inside, and they'll walk away from it. So in the first instance, make sure you've read the instructions and it's installed exactly as the instructions. In the second instance, phone the manufacturers, because if you touch it, then you've got a chance of breaking it. I see there's a live chat coming here from Gordon McDonald. He's a 20-year-old Myra 415 that's developed a trip, any suggestions? Yeah, it needs a cartridge. We have cartridges for the old 415. 415 is a great shower. It's connected, usually used for connection to a combi boiler. And the 415 was one of the first of the valves, 20 years old, I shouldn't be admitting that, but it was one of the first of the valves that were actually designed around a combi boiler, and so it can alter the pressure from either side. So if the pressure in the hot or cold goes up, it's got a balancing thing inside that that keeps the pressure fairly level and steady. So Gordon, yeah, all you need is a 415 cartridge. If you go onto our website, you'll see them there. I think there's only two. There's a grey and a black, and there's not a huge difference between them. If you want to take your old cartridge out, you'll be able to see what colour it is, and then you'll be able to order it online. This is when you say that we will definitely have that in stock, and you go to the shelf and you've sold the last one. But it's a common item, and the 415 shower has been used for quite a long time. At least the internal parts have. They've changed the knobs and that. And the outside appearance on that a few times, but the 415, for sure, you'll be able to get a cartridge for that, and the shower will be fixed. No other live. Oh, wait a minute. No other live chat coming at the moment. So I'll just carry on with two of the other questions that have come in over the last month or so. We were a bit late in getting this live chat done, just because we've been busy. And so. Have a look here. Dynamic Speed suggested it was a really good video, and that he had rust under his TCO, and he's cleaned he's cleaned the rust from underneath the TCO up, and cleaned the bottom of the TCO, and he says it's on the gold top. It's at the top of all the heating tanks are all really normally made of copper, and so it transfers the heat quite easily. But he said he found rust underneath it. To be honest, that's pretty unusual to find rust below a TCO. Not impossible. I think it's got to do with condensation getting in between it, because the sensor on the TCO is steel, and I just think that's what's caused it. I've never really had a problem though that with cleaning the rust off. If you put a new TCO in, then you would want to if there's anything going in between the top of the heating tank and the bottom of the TCO, then you would want to clean that off anyway. So it's unusual, but not impossible to get that to have that bit of rust under there. But you did the right thing. I suppose the sensible thing is, if you find that, give it a clean, pop the TCO back on again, and if it doesn't work, then you need to replace the TCO. We have a video, inevitably, about how to test the TCO, whether it should have continuity or it doesn't have any continuity across the top of the valve. Right, I'm going to look at one here now from Della Troy, who just says, thank you very much, great tips for replacing a shower bracket. Yeah, it's a fairly easy job, quite a common job, but one of the things is the screws get rusted, and so the answer is just to undo the screw at the top. We've got a video about how to replace the rails and the brackets and that sort of thing, that takes you through it step by step, so you should find that fairly easy. Yeah, Andy Jenner here. I've just changed the solenoid, but still nothing. He's got a Triton Aspirante. If it's not the solenoid, then what else? Well, first of all, did you check the solenoid? Did it have the correct resistance across the top? I guess normally when you have showers, no water coming through. The common fault is a faulty solenoid, but really before you change it, you want to test it for resistance. Having said that, if you have changed it, the next thing to do is to check and make sure you're getting power actually coming to the solenoid. So it's a case of really going. I mean, as you can see with this solenoid, we've got a live and a neutral connection. Just make sure there's actually power getting to it. What can happen is that if you have a faulty microswitch, I don't know if you can see this properly, the microswitches are in here in the shower, but if you have a faulty microswitch, then it may be that the power is not actually getting to the solenoid. Sometimes it may actually just be the knob that's not that's not clicking on properly at the back of the the back of the cover, and not allowing the solenoid, the micro switch to switch on. And if that's not switching on, there's no power getting to the solenoid. So really, if it's not solid, just try and work your way back. If there's no power getting to it, then you go up and check the micro switch, and you kind of work your way backwards from there to find out what the fault is. But check the solenoid for resistance first. Right, Big Otto. My shower randomly turns on and off and pulses water out. Any ideas? Now just let me see. Yeah, so it's he's brought this question in from a part of our website, part of one of our videos that deals with mixer showers. The pulsing could be due to a number of things. Uneven water pressure. What can happen sometimes if you've got high pressure hot water and low pressure cold, then the shower has difficulty balancing the two pressures. Some showers, like the 415 that I spoke about, is designed to deal with that kind of pressure variance. Some of the other showers are not, that they can only deal with either high pressure or low pressure. I guess that the first thing I would check is maybe that the thermostatic cartridge, does it say what type of shower it is? No, yeah. Okay, so because I don't know what type of shower it is, it's difficult to offer advice, but I would think the thermostatic cartridge is where I would start, and just see it. You can replace that and see if it stops the pulsing. Although he does say, just a minute, that it comes on randomly. Well, if it does, it would tend to, that would tend to make me think that it's actually an electric shower you have. If it's an electric shower you have, check the switches, much the same as the last one, that they're actually switching on and off when they should be. And the other thing it can be is if it's a shower with a circuit board, you can often get a fault in the circuit board that will switch the shower on. So with not knowing the type of shower, it makes that one really difficult to answer. Now, yes, Derek Williams here, that he is thanking us very much for doing the videos, and it sounds like he's had problems with Triton shower that has been blowing from I gather, it's not exactly what he says, but it's been blowing the pressure relief device. He said one shower that's been installed for 18 months and not blowing the PRD, and another one that's been in for 12 months and blowing it continually. We've covered that fairly well on the website, the things that would normally cause that. All I can think of is that the head's getting blocked. I mean, are you in a lime scaly area? I think you've really got to look. As I say, we do cover PRDs and what causes it to, what causes them to fail, blocked heads and kinked hoses and that sort of thing. And a 12-month-old shower, you shouldn't have a kinked hose. So there's not much more advice I can give you on that, really. I'd really need a bit more background detail. Let me see now. My Gainsborough shower is making a squealing noise when first switched on. Would a cartridge cure that? Yes and no. What usually tends to happen with a shower that's making a squealing noise is, first of all, the cartridge is getting old, and if it hasn't squealed before. But the squealing noise usually happens when you've got high pressure cold and low pressure hot. And so to make the shower balance properly, the hot port inside the shower is fully open and the cold port is only open a crack. And what you're actually hearing is the water getting forced through this crack at high pressure, and that's what makes it squeal. A brand new cartridge, it's very easy to say, yes, a brand new cartridge should sort that, but 9 times out of 10 it will do. But there is the odd time that it's not the cartridge, it's just the amount of pressure differential that's making it squeal. Usually a cartridge will solve the problem, but the problem really is more than that. There's a problem with the installation. The pressures are too far apart, and that's what's making it squeal. Cartridge should fix it. but I wouldn't want to give you a written guarantee on that. So it's probably a pressure fault. I think that's all we've got. Lucas said we've got a few more minutes here before we can, before we can do any more. I'm trying to think if there's no more questions. I'm starting to run out of information. I don't want to overdo the flow valve the situation. So I think all I'm going to say is, unless anything comes in the next minute or two, let me see if there's anything here. Don't know if there's anything on the back of these sheets. No, and there's no more questions, so I won't prolong this. We're on Facebook and Twitter, so you can give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will keep doing videos. We do instructional videos as well as a live stream. That just send us the questions and we'll do what we can to answer them. So that's it. Just subscribe to our channel, and thank you for watching.